Next week, voters will decide if Governor Gavin Newsom should be ousted from office, and if so, who should then replace him. The recall election comes amid heightened scrutiny on the elections themselves, from audits to grand jury reports to newly proposed commissions. Tonight, in an I-Team investigation, recall confusion, the facts about California's 2020 election, and trusting the vote.
Public's perception of it, which isn't being helped by the Secretary of State a lot of the time, is that there's something going on.
Recall Gavin Newsom founding board member Mike Netter raising the possibility that there's at least a perceived problem with voting in California. But the numbers show nearly 18 million people voted last November in California, and the Secretary of State's office reports 0 cases of voter fraud. Here in Riverside County, a civil grand jury reviewed the 2020 election and made 7 findings. Chief among them, votes were accurately counted and verified with the Dominion voting systems that have gained so much attention.
We also hand count 1% of the precincts to make sure that the hand count matches the electronic scan count, and we've never seen any discrepancies.
And the final finding of the grand jury, no evidence of election fraud. That doesn't mean there weren't any problems. The county's executive office produced an election after action report that identified a number of issues. Ballots arriving before information guides, something that happened again in the recall election.
The state did have a delay in mailing the state voter information guides due to the short time frame of a recall election.
Slow results on election night with the increase in vote-by-mail ballots. The county's starting to process those ballots earlier.
We've already started slicing open the vote-by-mail ballots that have come into our office and unfolding those in preparation for counting.
Some voters getting duplicate ballots, usually because of a re-registration or a DMV transaction.
We encourage voters to notify us of that information. We can research it, and if there is not a valid explanation as to why the voter received 2 ballots, that information would be forwarded to the district attorney's office.
County Registrar Rebecca Spencer says there will always be issues that need to be addressed, and she welcomes the increased scrutiny.
The part that concerns me is when the misinformation gets out there or people start spreading things that are just not accurate.
I talked with the political director of the Coachella Valley Democrats.
Are you prepared to accept this result either way?
Yes. We are not the other side that questions when they lose.
I think if it ends up within 2 to 5 points, either way, certain counties a recount will be demanded.
That wouldn't happen until after the counties do their auditing and certifying process.
In California, there are no automatic recounts. We do audits after Election Day before we certify the results. After that, any registered voter can request a recount, but they have to pay for it.
Both sides, pro and con on the recall, say it's important to get their people out to vote.
On the side trying to remove Newsom, which in case you haven't guessed is the side I'm on, okay? People are highly encouraged to vote, and we want them to vote.
Turnout, period. It's important for us to continue working as we have been doing, making phone calls, texting, postcards, contacting the voters to say you've got to vote.
In Riverside County, a new commission is going to be formed to oversee future elections, starting with the primary next year to promote more transparency and accountability over voting. You can see the registrar's full response on that commission and the increased scrutiny she's facing in recent elections online. Also at KSQ.com, you can see the full election after report and its response, the full civil grand jury report on last November's election in Riverside County, and the state of California's complete statement of the vote from last November. Plus a link to the Where's My Ballot tracker to find out if your ballot has been received.